Hi everyone, hope you are doing well. So in this video, we'll talk about what is debouncing and also we'll try to implement our own debouncing implementation. Okay, so now let's start. So before starting with debouncing, we need to know what is debouncing. Okay, so if we go by the definition, so definition says debouncing is a programming technique used to control how many times a function is executed. That's means suppose you have a button. Okay, so when you click on that button, every time you click on that button, that function is executed. But suppose that you do not want the function to be executed as soon as the button is clicked. Instead, you want to wait for some time, and after that you want to execute the function. So that is what debouncing does. Suppose that you have a button, so if you click on that button, it does not execute the function immediately. Instead, it waits for some time and then it executes. Okay, and not just that, so there is one more thing that is in the debouncing is that, so suppose that you have triggered, so suppose that you have a function. Okay, you have a button, so when you click on that button, the function is supposed to execute, and since it is a debounce function, so the function will not run immediately. Instead, maybe say it will run after 4 5 seconds, maybe 4 seconds. Okay, now within that 4 second, if you click the button once again, then that 4 second timer will get reset, and once again, like, it will start from the beginning. Suppose that you have clicked the button, now it is 1 2 3, it is the three seconds has been passed, and at this point if you click the button once again, that means the 3 second, that counter will start from 1 second from zero. So once again it will start from 0 1 2 3 4, and once it reaches 4, then it will execute. And if you click the button once again before it can reach the 4 counter, then it will restart that timer once again. So that is what the core concept of the debouncing. Okay, so now I'll show you a demo of debouncing. So here we have this very simple web page and we have this button. So if we click on this button, it doesn't do anything initially, but after 3 seconds it logs something in the console, that is the button clicked. Okay, so if we click the button once again, nothing happens, and after 3 seconds it logs that. Okay, so that we are using the debouncing in this button. So whenever this button is clicked, we do not run the function immediately. Instead, we are debouncing it for 3 seconds, and after that it will run. So I will show you another thing. So if we click on, and if we just continue keep clicking on it, so you can see it is never showing the button clicked. That's because we have the timer delay of 3 seconds, and within that 3 seconds we are on continuously clicking that button. So since we are continuously clicking, so the timer is never reaching the 3 second time barrier, and it is always getting reset. Now if we just continue clicking on, nothing happens. But if I just stop it now, you can see after I stopped it, so now it has logged that. So because it has already passed the 3 second. So that is what we will be doing today. Okay, so I have reverted back the code that I had for the debouncing. Okay, so now we have a very simple button and it calls the handle click. And if we go to the JavaScript, it just simply logs something in the console. So if we go to the example once again, now if you click on this button, you can see as we are clicking, it is for every time we are clicking the button, is it executing the function and logging something. Okay, so now we will implement the debouncing on top of this. Okay. To implement the debouncing, first we'll create a function called debounce. Now our debounce function takes two parameters. So first it will take the function. So whatever function we want to debounce, so that function it takes as the first parameter, and the second parameter it will be the time delay. So after what time delay we want to actually execute the function, so that time delay is the second parameter. Okay. Now here we will, inside this function we will create another function. Okay, so we'll create another function called maybe debounced function. Now inside this debounce function we will actually call the the original function which we want to debounce. Okay, so here we will use the set timeout, and here we will call that function. Now to call that function we will use the apply method. So function dot apply, and the first parameter that the apply takes is the this keyword, so we'll pass the this here, and the second parameter is the arguments. So since we are passing the arguments, so we also have to pass the arguments here also. Okay, and we have to pass the delay. So after how many delay, how many seconds of milliseconds of delay you want to actually execute the function. So that is the time delay that we have passed. Okay, so now that debouncing, I told you one thing, like one of the main concept of the debouncing is the timer reset. So suppose you have a debouncing of 4 second. Now within that 4 second, if any new function invocation comes for that function, so it will reset the timer of the 4 second from the scratch. Okay, so as of now we are not doing that, so we'll do that. So to do that, outside of this function we will create a timer id, and whatever timer id we are getting in return from the set timeout, we'll store it there. Timer id. And before executing the function, we want to check if there is any pending previous function call for this function. If yes, then we want to cancel that, because we have got a new function invocation, right? So we'll just clear that timer id. Now we'll just return that function. Okay, I think it's done mostly. So now what we'll do, we'll pass the handle click function inside this debounce function. Okay, so we'll create a new function, and the second parameter will pass the whatever time delay we want to pass. So we want to pass 3 seconds. So we'll pass it there, and we'll use this function as a on click here. Okay, now let's try out. If we click on this button, you are getting some error. It is saying debounce handle click is not defined. Okay, debounce function we have written here. We're using the debounce function, and we are getting this debounce handle click. The same function we are passing in the HTML also. Still, is it not working? Okay, it's still not working. Okay, so here I can see when I am just refreshing the page, I am getting this error. Unexpected identifier set timeout. So let's see. So here you can see we are missing an equal sign here. Now I think it should work. Refresh the screen. Now if we click on the button, nothing happens. But hopefully after some time it will log something. Okay, it is logging. If we click once again, and yes, it is logging. So if we just continue clicking on, it's not doing anything. But as soon as I stop clicking, after 3 seconds, we are seeing this button clicked has been there. Okay, so that is a simple implementation of the debounce function. That is how you can implement your own debounce function. Okay, so this is how you can implement. It's a very simple code. So if we just go over the code once again real quick, so we have created a function that takes a function, and it also takes the time parameter, like whatever delay you want to delay the function, right? And here we are just declaring a timer id variable, and inside this debounce function we are creating a inner function, that is a debounce function, and that takes a parameter arguments. And if there is any existing pre-existing function call, we are canceling that function call, and whatever timeout that we are getting, like whatever timer id we are getting from the set timeout, we are just storing that here, so that later if we want to cancel that, we can cancel that. Okay, and then we are just returning that function, and and then whatever, like, then we are like whatever function input function we want to debounce it, like handle click, this is the function that we want to debounce. We are passing that function as a parameter of the debounce function, and now we are getting this function as a output. Okay, so now if we just go and click on that, so it is debouncing. Okay, so this is just a simple example of the debouncing for the handle click button. But actually suppose you have this button or any button, like which instead of logging something, which does some some expensive operation like making some API calls and other things. For those cases, debouncing can be much more useful, because if the user clicks on that button very quickly, very frequently, maybe 4 or 5 times in a second, then instead of making those 4 or 5 different API calls, we can debounce the function call, and that way we can save our resources. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching.